This is my last day up here on the river today on this little project. Just got a couple of buckets to take out of this little pocket in here. Looks like since I was here last, someone's been in and had a little crack, a little nibble at what I've been digging, but that's okay. I like spoiling a good story or reading the last chapter. This is what I've got out of this this area, and obviously I'll show you the cleanup that I get from the last two buckets that I'll pull out today. So sit back and enjoy the project. Here's the first video of this series, which I call Anatomy of a Dig. Because I've got the rotopan, what I can do is pull out 10-15 litres of gravel, process it through, and then keep those concentrates and see where the gold in this little section has come from. And you'll see from the original photograph that I've gone through and I've picked out all the big rocks, and I basically left the river gravels now to process. So down under this hole in the bank here, I came and did a test dig and pulled out about 6 buckets of gravel, which I processed through the rotopan and came up with one fairly big picker, and then a couple more pickers, quite a few grains, so it's quite productive through here. And so what I've done is now I've gone up to this section up the creek, and you'll have, if you can compare it to the photo at the beginning, you'll see that I've lifted all these big rocks here. There was a couple of big rocks I've pulled out from here. This one here in the middle, that's too big to pull out with the crowbar at this stage. I'm going to have to dig under it before I've got any chance of moving it, and then even then I won't be able to lift it up out of the creek, but I can roll it aside, get underneath it and see what's there. And then I moved quite a lot of rocks from under this bank here, and especially on here, which is basically going to repeat what I had down there where I found out those big pickers from beforehand. So the interesting thing will be to see where in a section, probably about 8 metres of creek, where in this section will I find the gold, and how deep will it be. And that's the beauty of using the rotopan, is that I can work in one section and discover what material I get from each section in the creek. Is it up high under the boulders? How much will I find in around this big boulder in the middle? And then again another collection point down here where I've lifted all these boulders. But also just how much will I get through processing the river gravels. Where I work on at any time will probably depend on the sun. I'll be trying to work in the shade to avoid the heat. So I've cleared the blackberries back, pulled out the rocks, and coming back on Friday with the kids, and that'll give me a good chance to have a crack at it for the first time. So I've just about finished the front here, and I've just got a little second section here to clean out and finish before moving back. And today I'll be working on using the rotopan, and so I'll just run through a couple of buckets so you can see how it works. I've just finished the first day's dig up here on the creek. Spent a couple of hours. I pulled out 3 buckets of gravel from in around this rock. Started off getting up here. That was initially covered in gravel, that rock, and discovered that it's just under the surface. So I cleaned out around there, and then worked in front of the rock where I pulled out quite a big picker. I'll show you in a minute. And then worked on cleaning up the surface gravel all around this rock. So when I come back tomorrow, the chance will be to dig deeper and compare the gold that you get on the surface from the stuff you get down lower. So out of 3 gravels, 3 buckets of gravel, come up with a fair amount, especially this little baby, which is handy picker, which that beats quite flat and very grainy, coarse. I'm not sure if I can get a focus on it here. But that's definitely the biggest one I've got yet, and with all the rest. Well, it goes to show one thing, that you can't afford just to throw the surface material out, because I would have missed that picker otherwise. So, catch up with you next time. This shows where I spent most of my time working on day 2 in around that rock, trying to get down as deep as possible. And then today I'm going to be working higher up the creek at the end of the spot in underneath these rocks. So at the end of today's dig, I've been concentrating on working under this bedrock here, leaving one last dig to clean out all the way through here. And I've got the bottom down there to clean out. I had a mate who came down with me once on this creek to give me help, and he bought this chip fryer. It actually works such a treat in classifying all the big rocks out. I find myself, I'm now using this more and more often. Put it in a tub. Try to get down the bottom of the hole now. So, start cleaning it out with the yabby pump. claw off a freshwater crayfish. Don't know where the rest of it is. Might have it for lunch. It does a pretty good job of screening all it down. Have a quick look, see if there are any nuggets. Still yet to find one. It's 38 degrees today, so what I've done is I've set the sluice box in under the bridge, so it's shady, there's a bit of breeze blowing through, it's actually quite cool in there. I've got the pump set up here, bringing water up. And what I've done is with the gravel that I've been pulling up with the chip fryer, I've been putting into these buckets, and now I'm just running it through the sluice, and we'll see what we get with the cleaner. Move back a bit, Tom. Simon, too close. So here's the clean up of the last bucket I pulled out. I only ended up pulling out one bucket from the creek. But lots of flower gold in that one, many big pieces. So that essentially brings the project to an end for the summer. Now I'll be off to exploring a few new spots. See if we can find some better pickings here in West Gippsland. Final tally for that section of the creek. Pretty healthy, happy with that. Haven't got a set of scales, so I don't know how much it weighs. But well, a few things I learned about running that project is that this river, or the little creek, suits having a high banker or a trommel, something that you just got to shovel the material through. There's gold at the top, the middle, the bottom. I found a few pockets where there are bigger pickers and a few holes that were worth concentrating on, but essentially there's gold to be found throughout the whole area. So none of it you couldn't afford to waste it and concentrate on areas. So there's a couple of spots there I might return to next summer and have a crack at. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the journey as much as I have.